In light of recent events, I, who am well known to always put safety first, have taken to wearing a helmet every time I step out of my front door. And I know there are those of you in the comments who are going to say something like, Tyler, you should probably always be wearing a helmet. Just look at yourself. And believe me, I'm very aware of my own personal shortcomings. But in addition to all those regular reasons I should wear a helmet, I now also have to watch out for planes falling out of the sky. People have always said that air travel is safer than car travel, but lately I don't know. A lot of people walk away from car accidents every single day, but it's a little hard to walk away from a plane crash when your body's been turned into a fine, soupy mesh. I don't know what all the answers are for avoiding these catastrophes, but here's what United Airlines' plan is.
Plan to train 5,000 pilots by 2030, and at least half of them will be women or people of color.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's going to fix the problem. I'm Tyler Chrestman. Welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Okay. Hello, everyone. Glad to be back. We have, it has been, I guess, 2 weeks since my last video was out. And let me tell you, this has been a rough start to the year for your favorite podcast host. In January, I started off the year not feeling well. Turns out I had bronchitis. It took me out for a little under 2 weeks. I was out for about 12 to 13 days, just not feeling very well. I thought, man, this is the sickest I have felt as an adult. It was really not my favorite time. I got a little better. I went to Panama, had a blast. I was fine for like 8-9 days, felt great. Came back, went to work, came home, got sick again. And then it's been now 2 weeks of just being sick. And this time it was the flu. The flu took me down, flu A, and it is unpleasant. I don't know. I was trying to think. I guess I've never really had the flu before because it sucked. I will tell you. It was not fun. It was actually probably worse than bronchitis. Bronchitis was a little more physically debilitating, like the lung issues you have with bronchitis seemed really bad. But I think maybe having bronchitis contributed to me being a little weak and the flu just getting in there and messing with me. Because I really don't get sick as an adult. I haven't really ever been sick. A couple times, but never really. And this one kicked my butt. I will be honest. The flu got me. So either I'm getting old or getting weak or something's happening. But it was going around, I guess. A bunch of people I knew also had the flu. Not me. It's not my fault. I stayed home. I did everything that the people were saying you should have done for COVID. I did with the flu, but only because I felt terrible. It wasn't like I was afraid of spreading the flu. I just didn't have the energy to get off the couch. So I was going to record last Friday. And I went to bed Thursday night thinking, I'm gonna do it because I'm not gonna miss another episode. I don't want to do that. And then I woke up Friday and I said, I can't do it. It was rough. And anyway, it doesn't really matter why, but it was unpleasant. And so I am sorry for the missing the episode. I really don't want to make it a habit. We didn't miss a single week last year, and this year we're less than 8 weeks in and we've missed 2. So I'm not loving the trend, and I'm going to try and reverse that and go back to the giant streak of not missing any episodes. Anyway, enough about me personally. Let's get to the important stuff this week. I'm just glad to be back. We got some good topics this week. Our 3 things we're going to cover. We're going to talk about plane crashes, which you should have gotten from the intro. I'm going to talk a little bit about Social Security, and we're going to, again, go over the current state of the southern border because that was in the news a lot this week as well. But first, my favorite comment from our last video. So this is going to be from 2 weeks ago when the last video put out here on the channel. It is from Sam DeBebe, spelled B-A-I-B-E-H, Bebe. He says, quote, "What you don't understand is the reason why America is the world's sole superpower is because America doesn't act like it. Every superpower in history that acted like the sole superpower got destroyed eventually," end quote. Okay, Sam DeBebe, let me say something here. First of all, every superpower in the world has been destroyed because every superpower in the world has been destroyed. You can't just say it was because they acted one certain way. A lot of civilizations have acted differently, and a lot of civilizations have come to an end. So I don't agree that was the reason because they were all a bunch of bullies. But I also am not disagreeing with you. I feel like maybe it comes across, or when I was talking about the United States should be the boss, that it comes across as if I'm saying the United States should bully the rest of the world. That isn't actually my opinion. My opinion is that the United States is being taken advantage of. And it's not being a bully to say that the rest of the world should not take advantage of the United States taxpayers or rely on the United States tax dollars to fund their nonsense projects or enrich themselves. And that's not bully behavior. That's not forcing the other countries in the world to do our bidding just because we're bigger and stronger. When we do this with Canada and Mexico, it's because Canada and Mexico are taking advantage of us. It's not because we want to take advantage of Canada and Mexico. That is the thing that I feel like maybe the thing you're not understanding about my stance. Other countries around the world take advantage of the United States and saying that's nonsense and using our dominance to put an end to it. That is not the same thing as being a bully. I agree that in any civilization, in any culture, one strong despot, one leader does not get to be the leader for long if all they have to rely on is fear, power, and violence. It just doesn't work that way forever. It does not. You have to have other things in the toolbox. And you know this because, remember, Jordan Peterson talks about this in Monkeys, where if you have one chimpanzee who is domineering, who runs a group of chimps and it takes all the mates, eats all the food, is violent towards other people, well, all it takes is two slightly weaker chimps to murder the leader, and that's what normally happens. That's what happens in societies, too. So I am well aware. You don't want to be a bully. Being a bully is bad, but that's not what I'm advocating for, and it's not what the U.S. is doing when they're saying to places like Canada and Mexico, which are our allies, that you are not allowed to do this, and here's why, because we're in charge. That's not bully behavior, not in my opinion. Anyway, it's a great comment, by the way, because I think we don't actually disagree as much as we say we do, even if we would maybe disagree on policy. I think in principle, we have the same idea. Anyway, good comment. Okay, on to our first topic. Why the hell are there so many plane crashes? This is actually not a new problem. I remember it was somewhere around 2018, I believe, somewhere around that time. I don't remember exactly. I learned about this problem because I believe it was Ted Cruz, if I'm thinking about this. I don't actually have this pulled up. I'm just trying to remember. Ted Cruz, I think, was the first person who talked about how big of a deal that this was, that we were having these troubles with our air traffic controllers, and we were having trouble with pilots, and we were having all of these near misses in the air, and he was talking about this being a big deal. And there are a variety of reasons for that, but I want to go over a couple of them with you here right now, which we can absolutely point to. I'm sure the majority of you probably saw that Toronto plane that flipped on Monday. There have been at least 3 other major crashes that happened in the last 6 weeks, including that one in, I forget, was it in Virginia? I think it was outside of D.C. I think it was in Virginia. I can't remember, where the Black Hawk helicopter crashed into the plane. There have been a number of crashes, as well as 6, this is the quote, close calls, which the FAA classifies as the most serious kind of close call. There have been 23 in the last year. And a decade ago, there was an average of 11 a year. So we've over doubled that to these number of close calls to the 20s. How did that happen in 10 years? What happened? Is it simply that there are more flights? What's going on here? That is not the case. It doesn't look that way. And we're going to go over exactly what has happened. So we have to go all the way back to 2013 to really start to get to the first bit of this problem. Now, as you remember, I just said a decade ago, there were 11 a year of these close calls. I don't remember any major plane crashes that happened 11 years ago. Neither do you. I believe it was 2009. We had the last plane crash that killed people in the United States. So it's been a while prior to this year, and now there have been a number. So in 2013, the FAA, under the Obama administration, completely overhauled their hiring process for air traffic controllers, which at the time relied heavily on the collegiate training initiative programs. So this is actually a collection of colleges that train air traffic controllers. They have worked for decades, for the past 3 decades, actually, and they have devised a test of competency for people who were trying to get into the field of air traffic control. So basically, there's a group of colleges around that train air traffic controllers, and this group of colleges form this coalition with the FAA. They have designed a test for competency of people who are trying to be air traffic controllers. It's been the standard for about 3 decades. In 2013, they scrapped it. Barack Obama brought in a new head of the FAA. He conducted a study. He said that the air traffic controllers are too white. This is literally what happened. They're too white. They're too male. And he said, because of that, we're going to put a hiring freeze on air traffic controllers till we figure out how to get more women and minorities in these positions. So they completely scrapped the way that we hired air traffic controllers. And instead, they came up with a new test. It was a biographical questionnaire that's designed to screen out candidates who weren't members of preferred minority or racial groups. Basically, thousands of highly trained applicants, many of whom already spent years in school, by the way, trying to become air traffic controllers and who had spent years studying this subject, were left off of a hiring list of people. And again, we are talking literally because they had the wrong color skin. Their preference, the Obama administration's preference for air traffic controllers instead went to people of color, many of whom had zero training, and they were given preferential hiring. Now, this questionnaire, it was, again, just a take-home biographical questionnaire. It gave points to people for things like, what college subject did you receive your lowest grade in? If you answered history or political science, that was worth 15 points. So if I said, hey, what subject did you do bad in school? And you said history, then that was worth 15 points. Why? Who knows? If you played 4 sports in high school, that was worth 5 points. If you were a licensed pilot, so if you flew planes, if you knew how to fly planes, if that was what you did, which should be a gigantic benefit for an air traffic controller, that was worth 2 points. If you were already an air traffic controller in the military, so you helped land and take off the giant planes that ship around members of our military all throughout the world, that was worth 0 points. So you did really bad in history in college, 15 points. What was the other one I just listed? Oh, you played sports in high school, that's worth 5 points. Oh, you're a licensed pilot, 2 points. Oh, you already do this job in the military at a very, very high standard, no points. So 3,000 people were removed from the federal air traffic controller hiring list, left off because they did not fit the ethnic quotas, and instead they hired a bunch of people who were less than qualified. Republicans in 2018 actually forced the FAA to drop this quiz. So for the past, we'll be generous here, and we'll say 6 years. For the past 6 years, they've gone back to a more competent-based system of actually testing people for the job that they're trying to get rather than what color they are. And this is a good thing. But there is a downside to this, obviously, because we have this lag, this 5-year lag in people who were hired in this job. Now, here's the problem, and this has always been the problem with trying to get racial quotas. Imagine we have a job. It doesn't matter what the job is, but we have a pool of applicants. It doesn't matter what the job, doesn't matter what the pool looks like. If you have a bunch of people who apply for any job, there's going to be a best candidate, there's going to be a worst candidate, and there's going to be a ranking in between. Some of it might be marginal differences, but there's going to be a hierarchy of competency within that pool. So let's say I have a job, and 3,000 people apply for the job. And we have now a 3,000-person list of the most competent to the least competent person on that list. The more that I narrow the qualifications on that job for things other than competency, so I start arbitrarily picking people off of the list. So this is a really easy experiment to do with 5 people, or 4, because I can hold my hand up like this. So I have 4 people here. It's hard to put them to the camera. Imagine you have 4 people on the list, and I have just trying to use competency for whatever the job is as the quota for ranking 4 people. All right, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I start to limit the amount of people that I'm willing to hire based on things other than competency. Let's say I control for right-handedness. Well, what's going to happen? Well, maybe one of these 4 people is left-handed. Maybe it's the guy in second place. Maybe it's the guy in third place. Maybe it's the guy in first place. And I've just said, well, I'm not going to hire left-handed people because I don't like them. I don't like left-handed people. And all of a sudden, I've gotten rid of the most qualified person based on something that has nothing to do with how good he would perform this job, or how well he would perform this job, and instead on something completely irrelevant and totally useless. The same thing could be said for hair color. If I say I'm only going to hire brunettes, well, it turns out that the third place guy was blonde, and I get rid of him. Or the second place guy was blonde, and I get rid of him. So you think about that. It is stupid. It really is. It is misguided and idiotic to do this for any job. Because if I'm an employer and I do that and I make that list of 4 and then I say I'm only going to hire white men, for example, well, maybe the top guy is a white guy and that's great and that'll be fine. I hire him. But maybe he's actually not. Maybe there's a black guy or a Chinese woman or whoever. It doesn't matter. If competency is all I want, which is what I should want to fill a job, then it doesn't matter what this person's characteristics are outside of that metric, outside of the competency metric. So by limiting the job, for example, if I'm a racist and I say I don't want to hire black people or I don't want to hire women or whatever the case may be, I'm actually hurting my own pool. Well, when you do this on the other side, you're doing the same thing. So imagine you have these 3,000 people on the list. Maybe the top 10, 15, 20 people on the list were all black. Okay? That's totally a possibility. It seems unlikely that all 20 of them would have been black, but maybe they were. And then I come in and I control for race. And I say, well, all the white people, you're out. Okay, so it doesn't matter in this case because all the top 20 applicants were black. If that was the case, the Obama administration would have hired those people and they wouldn't have needed to do this. It wasn't the case. The case was that actually of the 3,000 people who applied, the majority of the top people who were in that position based on competency alone were white. And because of that, they were dismissed from this job and we hired black people. Now, this goes without saying. If the black person is the most competent person for the job, hire that person. But in this case, what we did was we selected down the list. We hired people preferentially based on race for an artificial reason, because there's no reason we had to do this. And instead now, we have made the system and made air travel less safe. Now, this is not to say, by the way, none of this is to say that this crash was caused by DEI. When Donald Trump comes out and he says it was caused by DEI, we don't know that. But you've now put doubt into the system. This is has always been the problem with affirmative action. Pushes by people to promote affirmative action. The problem is that, again, go back to the scenario. Imagine of those 3,000 people we talked about who were put off the list. The top guy was black. Imagine that for a second. Well, then we dismiss all the white people. We hire the black guy. But he was the most competent person for the job. But we've hired him. What does that do now that he gets in that job? 2 things. 1, it undermines his credibility among his peers because people will look at him and then say he was an affirmative action hire, which is not good for him because he was the most competent person for the job. He did not need to be an affirmative action hire. So either you say, oh, he was an affirmative action hire, which undermines his credibility in his job. 2, it also might lead to some self-doubt because maybe he actually believes that he wasn't the most competent person and you've now put him in this position and that undermines self-confidence, which is also not a good thing. Or 3, maybe he was an affirmative action hire, in which case somebody else more competent should have gotten this job, but he was given preferential treatment and now put in a job that he was less prepared for and more likely to fail. Affirmative action is not a good thing, and it shouldn't have anything to do in a job that actually makes people less safe. This is a job that makes people less safe. This isn't like affirmative action, I don't know, in a kitchen where nothing bad's really going to happen if you decide, 50% of our kitchen needs to be black or women or whatever. Doesn't matter because no one's going to die because of that. This is a job that actually matters about life and death, and you cannot have people based on any preference other than competence. It doesn't make any sense. It should be a meritocracy through and through, and the Obama administration changed that, and it has made it less safe. All right, excuse me. So that's on the air traffic controller side. And unfortunately, the airlines have gone down the same path. I mentioned it as a joke in the beginning. United Airlines says they want to have 50% women. Why? What does it matter? Why do you care? What does it matter? If a woman can fly a plane, great. That's awesome. Why do I need to have a woman pilot? Who cares? Do you think women don't know they can be pilots? Women can be pilots. If you want to go be a pilot, be a pilot. There's no barrier that stops a woman from going to flight school and being a pilot. They can do it. To hire, though, and say you're going to make sure that 50% of your workforce is women, once again, you're using a metric other than competency that guarantees you will not be hiring the best candidates, which means that United Airlines is not hiring the best pilots. That's it. This is the same stupid thing that Joe Biden did when he said he was going to pick a black woman to be his vice president. It was a dumb thing to say, and it sets Kamala Harris up for failure and jokes. All you have to say is, I'm going to pick the best person for a job, and then pick a black woman if that's what you're going to do. If you're United Airlines, all you have to say is, we hire the best pilots available, and then you can just pick 50% of them to be women. And then no one will have to be like, oh my God, Delta is, going out of their way to pick women, and all you're doing is guaranteeing yourself that you are not hiring the best pilots. I don't want to fly United because of this nonsense. It's ridiculous. What about Delta? Let's check this out real quick. This is Delta Airlines, okay? They have an entire, if you click on this little thing up here, and then scroll down. Uh-oh, wait, is this it? Why is it not doing it? Is that the wrong button? That might be the wrong button. Oh, About Delta. Here's what I'm looking for. So if you go here, all right, this is blah, 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 About Delta. They got this community engagement, sustainability, blah, 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 blah. You go down here to their entire tab on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. Oh, wait. Somehow messed this up. Okay, here we go. So you click on it. What is this? Oh, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I got this whole giant page about it, by the way. Scroll down, blah, blah, blah. Hey, look, black pilot. And there's a white guy. I don't know why he's in here. He's gay. That's why. Never mind. Got Asian guy, skills first, approach to talent. Okay, I'm looking for... Okay, here we go. So this is what I was looking for. A deeper look at Delta's people. They literally have a breakdown on here on... These are the generations of people. Hey, look, they got veterans. That's cool. Gender. So 58% men, 41% women. I actually don't know if that applies. I guess that applies to everyone who works at Delta. Ethnicity. They got this big chart breaking down ethnicity. They're doing pretty good here. 49% white, 26% black, 12% Hispanic. Not a lot of Asians. I don't know what other would be. What's other? You got black, Hispanic, Asian, white, other. So Indian maybe, South Asian, is that they're counting that different? Or Native Americans? They don't have 4% Native. They don't have 5% Native Americans, I'll tell you that. Oh, here we go. Oh, and it just says other. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, this is what's close. And here's the part. This is the part right here. Closing the gap. So closing the gap is our way to focus on equity and inclusion. Here's a snapshot. So these are all the things that they have broken down. They have them broken down by gender. They have them broken down by race. And what they're saying is their job is to make these all equal. Again, why? Delta, you're an airline. You're not a very good airline, by the way. You're a fine airline, but you're not that great. Why do we care? This is not what air travel is about. This is not what's making our air travel safer and better. This system is broken. And you're crashing planes when you're not hiring based on merit. You mostly are already, but you're going to go further down the path further. You're going to go further down the path and go down this selecting for things other than competency, this diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense, this DEI nonsense path, when already people are crashing planes. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make air travel better. And I think that these kind of websites, if you put this stuff out, I don't want to fly with you. So, United Airlines and Delta, it's like, get out of here. I won't fly those unless I'm forced to, which is hard to say when you're going to be forced to. Anyway, you get what I'm saying here. We don't know that diversity, equity, and inclusion are the result of these crashes. But by the way, that would be scarier. Imagine that we've hired people based solely on merit, and that the best people, that like all these pilots were just straight white guys who got the job because they were great on tests and blah, blah, blah. That's actually scarier, because what you're saying is we've hired the best of the best and we're still crashing planes, and now we're going to hire people who aren't the best of the best, and we're going to see how they do. That makes it worse, people. If it's actually not the result of DEI, it's way worse. It doesn't make the argument less valid. It makes the argument scarier. So I don't know what would be better to find out. I think that they were saying that the plane that flipped in Toronto, which I don't know anything about air travel or flying an airplane, but I will say this. I watched the landing that plane made, and it looked really bad. I don't know. Maybe it's a plane thing. Maybe it was a wind thing like they were saying. I don't know. All I know is that the airline that they use is like an all-female airline, so it's kind of like, oh, God, is that really the kind of thing that all you do is advertise how all you do is employ female pilots, and oops, then your one bounces the plane off the runway and flips it. I mean, again, maybe it's a wind thing. Who knows? I just know it looked like pilot error, but what do I know? Anyway, let's move on to topic 2. I want to talk about the border. All I want to do when I talk about the border real quick is run a couple numbers, because I really, really ranted about that first topic. So let's talk numbers. Custom and Border Protection said that 61,465 illegals were apprehended in the month of January. This is a 36% decline from December and the lowest apprehensions at the border since May of 2020. So that's basically 5 years, 4.5 years, that it's the lowest number of apprehensions in basically the entirety of Joe Biden's presidency. So from the inauguration, so that was in all of January. From the inauguration only, though, when you go from then to now, instead of including the little last gasp of Biden's presidency, we have an 85% drop in the same period of time from 2024, and apprehensions at the port of entry has declined by 93%. So 3 weeks before the inauguration, there were more than 2,000 apprehensions daily, and after, there were 786. Okay, so what do these numbers mean? These numbers mean that, do we remember when Joe Biden pretended that there needed to be a border bill for him to enforce the border because the border's out of control and the illegals are out of control, and we need these extra powers in the presidency so I can actually do something about it because I just don't have enough power. And that's what Joe Biden was saying. That's what the Democrats were saying. It was not true. It was always a lie. I said so at the time. It was a lie. The Republicans shouldn't have passed it. They didn't pass it, which I was all for. And then the Republicans, they said they're blaming them. Oh, you're making this political. If you really cared about the border, you'd pass this. No, if you cared about the border, you would just close it. You don't need the executive to get more power. And all that did, by the way, was allow for a certain number of illegal immigrants to cross every day. That was actually ridiculous. It was something like 2,000 people a day could cross the southern border before any of those executive powers actually kicked in. And even then, it went to the what was the guy's name? It went to, oh my gosh, what was his name? It doesn't matter. It went to the Biden administration to determine whether or not they wanted to actually turn on the extra powers. It didn't do anything. It was a show bill to pretend that they could be tough on the border, and the Republicans didn't fall for it, luckily. Anyway, it was all a lie. Joe Biden didn't need more power. Donald Trump shut this down in a week and a half, and it was that easy because he did it when he was president, and now he's doing it again. I like it. I want to see it tougher, tougher, tougher. And it was all, that garbage bill was always a lie. Let's just hope he keeps it up. I think that he will, because he's been very serious about ending birthright citizenship, which I believe actually for the first time could be on the table. And these mass deportations, they're going to be absolutely the biggest changes to immigration policy since the 60s, I would imagine, somewhere around there. And let's show the world we're serious. Just remember, this entire thing is because Democrats and Republicans, don't give the Republicans a pass here, they have both parties have really not taken the idea of American sovereignty seriously. They don't give it any real thought or regard. They do not care about it. You cannot be a nation without borders, and it's important that we always remember that. Force the Republicans to continue down this path. Protect American sovereignty. And you cannot do that if you have a porous border. It just does not work that way. Good fences make good neighbors. Let's go. Keep it going. That's all I wanted to say on that. I just wanted to touch on the numbers real quick and show you that it was always untrue that Joe Biden could not do anything to fix this problem. It is very, very fixable. Topic number 3. Where are we sitting time-wise? Oh, baby, we're getting close. Okay. Topic number 3, Social Security. Nothing. No. I don't know if you can hear this. The cat just ate. She's freaking out. Okay. Calm down, Winnie. Topic number 3, Social Security. Nothing I have to say on this topic will ever make me popular. That is just the way it is, because I feel like almost everyone disagrees with me, because what I have to say is the truth, and I do not see a way around it. I've never heard a good argument that explains to me the way that I'm wrong. We should stop Social Security. We should cut the entire program and be done with it. That is my opinion. I think that people who have paid into Social Security should be allowed to collect their benefits. We have to figure out a way to fund that. But I think that, for example, if imagine you're 50 years old and you've worked for the last 30 years. Well, we shouldn't take it away from you. But what we should allow you to do is something like they do in loggers, where you can buy back years. Well, you could buy forward years into Social Security, and you could have it that way, or you could take a payout of what you want from Social Security, like lock it in today, or you could take your whatever the what's it called? You could take like a cash payment tomorrow and just cash out completely. We need to dismantle the program, and the reason I say this is because there are 3 things that are going to bankrupt America. And they're very easy. It's the 50% of all the money America spends are on 3 things: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Those are the 3 things that will bankrupt America. And oh my gosh, stop that. Stop. She's being so bad. She always does this after she eats. She runs around and meows like crazy. And because those 3 programs are going to bankrupt America, we should cut them. We need to. Or the alternative is we have to raise taxes substantially on everyone. And everyone hates that, by the way. Even the people who like those programs, they say, oh my God, I don't want to pay 45% in taxes. No, you don't. I don't. Nobody does. But that's what it would be. That's what it would take to fund this Ponzi scheme that we know as Social Security. And nobody wants to pay it. So, but that's not Trump's position. That's not the Republican Party position. Donald Trump has made it abundantly clear he has no intention of touching entitlements. I don't agree with that, but it's his position, so whatever. And here's what we learned this week. The Inspector General audit found that the Social Security Administration mispaid $72 billion over the last 8 years. And they found that there are 20 million people over the age of 100 who are on Social Security rolls right now. So that means 20 million people over the age of 100 cashing checks. There are not 20 million people over the age of 100 in the country. And this includes, by the way, some outrageous ages. So, for example, people aged 120 to 129, you have 3.7 million people, those ages. Ages 130 to 139, you have almost 4 million, 3.94 million people aged 130 to 139. I'm sure your grandma, who's 140 years old, is one of the 3.54 million 149-year-olds that there are on the Social Security rolls. I'm sure that your grandma, probably remembers what it was like. We'll do some quick math here. In 1880, and it's ridiculous. In 150 to 159-year-olds, there's 1.35 million. Now, there are people on those rate up to 300 years old, I saw. So Elon Musk has come out and said that he's not aware that we are currently paying all those people all the time. But he said the fact that the Social Security rolls are never purged is a ridiculous thing because this means that those people are still eligible for benefits. This is nonsense. This is ridiculous. How are we not updated on this system? How do we not have a more comprehensive system that allows people to just be removed when they pass away? All of those people are dead. Every single one of them. You're talking 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, probably almost 13 million. Almost 13 million people over the age of 120 should be removed immediately. Oh, so I said 20 million, but by the way, those were just ages 120 to 159. Like I said, it goes up to 100 or 350 years old. That's the oldest person on the voting roll. Think about that for a second. How does that make any sense? How old is the country? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, except somebody got on the Social Security when they probably fraudulently back in the day or a misplaced number or whatever, and they have been that money could have been going out for, I don't know, the last 100 years. When did Social Security start? The Great Depression, so the 30s, the late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around there, probably. It's ridiculous to think. You know what? Actually, we're not going to do that. We're gonna fact check that right now. I got to know the answer. Social Security start 1935, August 14th, 1935. Okay, so yeah, just about when I thought. It doesn't matter, but that's the point. Is all of this that Elon Musk is doing at Doge is a fantastic thing. Because also, if there are people on the Social Security rolls, their identities are about to be stolen. This could also explain some voting abnormalities we saw in the year 2020. I'm not saying it was stolen. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this could also be one part of the reason why when you do universal voting, where are they pulling these names from? Sometimes it comes from lists like this. And if you have lists like this that are outdated with 20 million dead people on it, it means that there's some possibilities for some fraud. Remove these people. Fix Social Security. Stop the waste because we already can't afford it. We don't need the waste. And let's just continue to wish Elon Musk luck in this. I don't know who's looking at this and just is so offended. By the way, there's been this fake controversy because he wanted in there and got the Social Security numbers of people and was able to look at them, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, what an invasion of privacy. The guy ran PayPal. 70-something% of Americans used PayPal last year. He has access to your bank account and your Social Security number. I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need it. He's not. You think he's trying to set up a credit card in your name for something? Your credit score is 400. Okay, he doesn't need your money. And it's a stupid controversy. It's not a real thing. No one's really upset or worried that Elon Musk is going to steal their identity. I don't even know what the thing is. Anyway, we're going to continue. Wish him luck. And I'm glad to be back. As always, leave questions, comments down below, and I will get to them whenever I see them. I sometimes, like I said in the last video, or possibly the last video, is that the YouTube has been weird sometimes. I'll comment on things. I go back later, and the comment's just gone, and I'm not 100% sure what the deal is with that. It'll say there's a reply, and then you can't click on it. It's been weird. I don't know what the deal is. But hopefully, I always try and get back to everybody. So let me know in the comments down below if there's any topics you want me to hit, or you got any feedback, or you want to yell at me and tell me I'm wrong, or just say how much Oh, by the way, thank you for everyone who said get well. I appreciate all of you, all the well wishes. It's really nice to have people who do that. So I do appreciate that. And like I was always, I will catch you guys next Friday.